All right. Let's hope I'm doing this right. So, welcome to the Pinfall podcast. I am your host, as always, Liz, and I am currently sitting in the captain's chair. And thank you for tuning in. If you have, if you haven't, Mark is not here tonight. He is off on a job, so I am sitting in the comfy chair and bringing you our Monday Night Raw podcast with absolutely no interruptions from another person, which might be my downfall. But that's all right, because we have no signs tonight. I'm going to try that without. I've got no signs to tell anybody where we are. Yes, I'm having my singles push tonight. It'll probably be about as successful as Peyton's. But we have no signs, no direction, no glasses, so I'm gonna do my best to see what I'm doing. But also, no one to tell me when to stop doing the news segment, which is great. So, we're gonna start with the news. And first thing that we're gonna talk about is that the WWE trademarked the term take off to take over. I don't know what it means, but that's what they kind of branded Wednesday's NXT with. I guess they were saying that, as they mentioned, Bronson Reed was gonna be the final challenger. My volume, but I guess they called it the takeoff to take over. So I guess that's what Wednesday night's theme's gonna be. I don't know what it means. No one's taking off anywhere. We're all in the U.S. We're not allowed to travel anywhere. But in addition to that, the NXT Championship Gauntlet Eliminator lineup has been officially released, and it is now Kushida, Bronson Reed, Kyle O'Reilly, Cameron Grimes, and Tim Tam Thatchy Thatch, arms and muscles ready for the matchy match. Which I think is best, because I kind of thought they were going to try to put the Undisputed Era boys against each other. So I'm kind of happy that they aren't doing it. Plus, we finally get to see Kushida in like a non-enhancement talent role, I guess. He hasn't really been like enhancement talent, but he's been like not doing anything since the cruiserweight title matches that they had. So, I guess that's cool. Doesn't seem like much of a difference, but we've got Kushida and Kyle, so I don't know. Just happy to see a vague difference. At least it's not like Raw or SmackDown at this point. Then it was announced that I guess it is going to happen that, as I mentioned last Friday, Jackson Riker made a little tiny bit of an Instagram, Twitter post about Forgotten Sons, forgotten no more, hashtag blah, blah, blah. I don't wear a mask because I'm a freak. I guess it is looking like there has been a lot of talks recently about the Forgotten Sons coming back, which I think is interesting because Jackson Riker seems to be consistently saying stuff that would make the general public annoyed. I'm happy that Steve and Wesley are getting a return. I can't. I don't want to see Jackson Riker back. I'm gonna have to be mad again. I've been mad at SmackDown for a long enough time at this point. And after everything Jackson Riker said concerning Black Lives Matter and any other movement to, in the name of social justice, after he said all that, the matches with him versus like Lucha House Party and Jay felt a little like, sure. So that's something. I'm probably gonna say at least 41 more times. in the next half hour. And in addition to that, Booker T has once again spoken about things I don't really know why Booker T is speaking about them. And not to say that he shouldn't be talking about them, because I mean, it is a WWE alumni, but he always has a tendency to kind of like come out of the woodwork at the weirdest times. After his whole kerfuffle with the Naomi thing, where Naomi was like, yeah, I guess he's kind of right. He now has an opinion about people trying to make matches with Brock Lesnar, which feels kind of weird, because Brock's not the only one that's been subjected to, like, people from UFC or MMA coming out of absolutely nowhere to be like, I want to fight so-and-so. I guess he has a problem with the fact that people are trying to make themselves matches with Brock Lesnar. Very specifically, he's referencing UFC fighter Daniel Cormier. I just don't really know why he would talk about this now. I guess the thing that makes it feel weird is that he is talking about it now when Daniel Cormier has been trying to make this match for a while. And on top of that, I don't even remember the guy's name now, but the one who was trying to challenge Drew for a fight, like, just sitting on his plane making weird-ass Twitter videos and whatnot. It just... I don't know. I just don't know why Booker T's talking about it now. I guess he just does not like that. He doesn't like people kind of stepping in, trying to make room for themselves in the WWE roster. Okay. There were so many other people we could be talking about this with. Like, down the line, down the history of this show in the last, like, 6 months. There were so many people, but Booker T finally has decided that he has an opinion, so he's going to talk about it now, I guess. I don't know. And finally, we went like 3 weeks without any real Vince McMahon is mad about X, Y, and Z happening at this brand's show. Because there were a couple weeks in a row where it felt a bit like Vince McMahon had gone to every single Raw taping and had decided every single Raw taping was trash from the outset and rewrote it all within like an hour. And I never felt like it affected Raw. But now Vince has come forward again to say that he hated stuff that's happened recently in both Raw and SmackDown. And in addition to that, I guess things have been super messed up still behind the scenes. This was first, I think, noted with Raw last week. During the match between Shinsuke and Cesaro versus the Street Profits, Shinsuke made a comment that I think Mark and I both kind of laughed at, which was, if you smoke, you're going to get cancer or something like that. If you want the smoke, you're going to get cancer, which was not supposed to actually air. That promo was not supposed to happen. And it kind of makes sense. I mean, not that it makes sense, I guess, but more so, if looking back, it feels a little weird since they're doing the whole Connor's cure. I don't know. Apparently, that was not supposed to be the promo that aired. It was not supposed to be the thing that made the final cut. But it did, because no one has any control backstage now. And then in addition to that, apparently, and this article is courtesy of our long lost co-host, Mark. Apparently, Vince McMahon was so mad about SmackDown this past Friday. Specifically the match between Cesaro and Grand Metalik, that he wanted the match to end during commercial break. apparently Vince was there during the taping, was changing the show constantly throughout the entire taping. And they're saying that that's why SmackDown was so just kind of discordant last Friday, which I picked up on. I don't know if Mark did, but I picked up on that. I kind of said that I didn't really like this SmackDown in comparison to the last couple of SmackDowns we'd had, and it was a very weird episode. But apparently Vince ended up wanting to change several things basically as they were happening. I just think it's interesting that now we're seeing Vince getting mad at SmackDown over Raw. He was changing things on the fly at Raw for a while. Now he's doing it at SmackDown. And at the very least now we can maybe make an excuse for SmackDown where it's like, oh, that's why we hated it. But I also think maybe like Vince not being at the tape people long run as far as ratings go. I never read the ratings articles. They're always on Wrestle Talk or like Cage Side or whatever. Never read those numbers because I don't know what it means. But if my say means anything, maybe now I see why SmackDown kind of sucked last week. Mark would kick me for that, but at least we got the Big E promo. So weirdly enough, I'm pretty sure this did not. Look at that. Mark's not even here. News took less than half an hour. It is also important to know. I didn't put this down in my news because I didn't know if it was going to happen tonight, but apparently something that Mark and I have both been wishing for a while. Robert Roode is supposed to be back either, I think, next week or the week after, which means we are finally going to hear his beautiful theme song, and I'll probably lose my mind. So keep that locked away in the back of your heads. I sure as hell will. I spent the entire last 3 hours hoping that he would just show up out of nowhere, even though we didn't even see Dolph, but my fingers crossed. Alright, it feels weird not having signs. I feel like I just want to, like, the news is over. I don't know how to end segments now. I'm gonna be rambling this whole time. I wanted to call this the People's Choice podcast because I can't make decisions on my own, so it's just gonna be up to the viewers who best of the night. Unless Mark texts me out of nowhere and tells me this is what his opinion is. He also only saw half the show, so catch me giving it to Drew McIntyre across the board. So also in that same vein, I will not be running back the Royal when I do Best of the Night because so we started off tonight with the thing that annoys me the most, which is when Retribution messes with the title credits. It's not a fan of it. It drives me insane. Feels weird when you're watching it and you know someone else is like listening in and you're like, I'm doing something strange. But Retribution messed with the title credits, and we finally got to know sort of kind of maybe like who everyone is. Obviously we know who Mia Yim is in this. We obviously know. I think it was pretty obvious that one of them was Dio Madden. Of course, Shane Thorne, no one gets to see his face. So they all come out, masks, sort of, like Bane masks now, except for Shane, who's got, I think it's, Freddy Krueger? Whatever. The little hockey mask. And I guess this counts as a Raw debut. A lot of people were complimenting or congratulating Mia Yim on her Raw debut because very clearly Mia Yim. It was also very clearly Mercedes Martinez. Dijakovic shaved his head, which I'm going to get into. But I guess this counts as them moving up in the roster. Because, again, people were congratulating Mia, and she was retweeting that, so it kind of felt like, oh, okay, I guess that's what's happening. But so Dominic shaved his head. He has the microphone for almost the whole time, basically saying, you know, the WWE is full of money-hungry people that are lining their pockets and buying all these expensive suits while everyone else is suffering. I thought was funny, because all are working for the WWE. So, I don't know. Felt weird. Dijakovic then calls the people that work in the WWE whores. I'm almost positive. Maybe I misheard something. Pretty sure I heard that, though. And then the Hurt Business come out. I'm gonna be honest, their more recent walkout song has kind of started hitting the right tunes for me. I'm sort of a vibe. And they, you know, they're the self-appointed security now, so they come out, they try to attack Retribution, but there are significantly more Retribution members than Hurt Business members. And so they're all attacking each other. Cedric gets thrown out of the ring. I don't remember who now, but somebody gets thrown at the announce desk and bursts a can of soda, which is just exploding in the background. And the one positive we can glean from this is that Tom Phillips is finally back. Admittedly with Jerry Lawler. But Tom Phillips, I saw an article prior to the show starting when I was accumulating everything for the news. And it was like, this update on Tom Phillips for Raw. And I was like, oh my god, Tom Phillips has left. But he's still there. He's still there. Samoa Joe now is gone. I don't know what's happening over there. But after the Retribution promo, after Tom Phillips showing off his beautiful face again, we go backstage. The Mysterio family is back there. Sarah talks to them about Dominic having a title opportunity, which it took me a whole second to understand what was happening, because it was like, well, Seth doesn't have a title, Buddy doesn't have a title, who could he possibly go on? And while Dominic was not fighting Seth specifically, he was in a 3-way tag match. Seth and Buddy versus Angel and Andrade versus Dominic and Humberto. To see who would get the spot to fight the Street Profits at Clash. You look at the history of Seth and Buddy as of the last 2 weeks, and you look at Dominic and Humberto, who are not technically tag team partners. It's really only one way for this to goddamn go. And it went exactly that way. So Street Profits come out. They're dancing. They're having a good time. Mike Rome is totally vibing along with it. And I didn't really know what was happening. So when Seth and Murphy came out, I was like, well, Seth, you just kind of cage slammed Murph last week. How are y'all going to work in a tag team together? I guess Murphy forgives quickly. Andrade and Angel come out. Dominic and Humberto come out. Having a good time. It's Murphy versus Angel versus Humberto. Angel immediately takes his pants off, tags in Andrade. Andrade just bops right out of the ring. Leaves Murphy and Humberto there to deal with one another. Murphy gets an arm sub on Humberto. Humberto reverses it into an arm sub on Murphy, who reverses it into an arm sub on Humberto. And then Humberto finally sends Murphy out of the ring. It's now Angel and Humberto and Andrade. Andrade is thrown into the ropes. And as he's tangled up there, he just poses for a little bit. Just hangs out. Which Humberto does not care for. But he gets back in the ring. And it's the most typical triple threat tag match, I guess, is that, if that's what you can call it. In that it just like loses the plot entirely midway through. Andrade chases Dominic off the apron, and then it's Andrade and Murphy working together against Humberto. As they try to pull off a move on him, Humberto kicks Buddy in the face. Andrade's like, "Want that to be me." Buddy then launches Humberto, who goes off the ropes. It almost looked like he like actually was hoping to assist him. Humberto goes off the ropes. Buddy launches him into Andrade. Then there's a super kick to Murphy. Murphy's just not looking good. Dominic gets tagged in, and Angel, who's also been tagged in, immediately just socks him off the apron. Dominic and Humberto go off the ropes in like a little crisscross pattern onto Andrade and Buddy outside the ring. Then we have Andrade and Dominic in. Andrade sends some knees to Dominic's face, and just in the corner of the ring, you can see Buddy just like slowly like just crawling, doing his absolute best. There's a sunset bomb to Andrade from Dominic. It was a really cool move. And covers, but the cover is broken with a drop kick from Angel. Then we have just the weirdest, like, awkward 619. It's like Dominic was up in the ropes. Angel was right there, and like it felt like Dominic kind of had to like push him, like weasel himself over to get the 619 off, I guess. Then Murphy is alive again. He's breathing oxygen. Murphy sends a pump kick right to Humberto. Kicking a lot of little jabs in the side. Finally, Murphy sends a nice high knee right to Andrade's chin. And at that point, Murphy and Andrade are both just kind of laying dead in the canvas. And Seth's standing on the side, just around, just looking. Just absolutely being the weirdest version of Seth that he could possibly be, which is not where that ends either. And after surveying the scene, he just says, "All right," and walks off. Takes his ball and goes home. And by ball, I mean his jacket. He says, "I have better things to do today. I don't really want to be here." And he walks off. Andrade covers. Murphy throws him into the corner. Andrade smacks him with an elbow. Angel gets in. Gets a wing clipper off on Murphy. Murphy gets pinned. Andrade and Angel win. They have the berth to go on and fight Street Profits at Clash for the title. I can't stand how many times I have been injured in the soul by Seth. And yet, I continue to expect better from him. I saw him walk out with Murphy today, and I was like, yay! Friendship! We're friends again! That's awesome! No. And once again, we are stuck with another Angel Andrade fighting for a title. Because now they're the new Bayley and Sasha, where I know sooner or later one or not the other, because Zelina's completely given up on them altogether. But anyways, Adam Pearce has completely given up on his job. Retribution is backstage. Just taking over. And it's just more of Retribution saying, like, oh, the WWE is full of greedy scumbags, blah, blah, blah. So sad for us. We aren't paid enough, which I'm sure they probably aren't if you're coming from NXT. But also, you're working for them. And it gets weirder, and I'm going to wait to say why it gets weirder until I get to that point in the episode, but it's It's considerably stranger. Anyways, we move on to the KO show, which I didn't know was happening. I was happy it did sort of kind of when it started. First of all, Kevin Owens calls Alistair Captain Hot Topic, and I will never get that out of my head. For the rest of my life, it will be. And Kevin's like, I never thought that I'd have this guest on my show. I never really saw this heading here, but Shane McMahon's my guest. And I swear to God, I never wanted to see Shane McMahon's walkout ever again. I thought, I would relive it a couple times watching old WrestleManias or old SummerSlams or whatever. But no. There's Shane McMahon just dancing along to his little money song, and anyways. Shane McMahon is the guest of the hour. Worry that this is leading to potentially Shane McMahon fighting at a pay-per-view again. Not either. And Kevin just kind of goads him for a little while. Kind of says it's like he's promoting the show that Raw's already promoting. And acting like he's doing some service to Shane, but it's... The main point was that Kevin knew if he brought out Shane to promo Raw Underground, Shane would then bring out Dabba-Kato, who now has his own walkout song, which sure means something in the long run. Dabba-Kato comes out. Kevin Owens then kind of talks shit at Dabba-Kato. And then Kevin Owens slaps Dabba-Kato. I've made a lot of dumb decisions. I've made a lot of decisions that I could look back on and be like, that was not smart. But that's probably one of the worst things I've seen so far. Slaps Dabba-Kato, and then because Braun's got a match with Dabba-Kato, Braun comes out. And I know that there's been rumors that the Superstar Shakeup was supposed to happen in September. At this point, I'm 9 days left of September? I'm pretty sure it's not. But they have been planning a Superstar Shakeup for 2020. And now with Sasha looking like she's full-time SmackDown and Braun coming over to Raw to wrestle, and Mandy Rose came over to Raw, and there's rumors that AJ Styles is going to come over to Raw. It almost feels like they're just kind of edging in a Superstar Shakeup without actually doing the draft or anything like that. It sort of just feels like they're like, and we slide here, and we go this, and we that. So we have Braun come out. And then I thought it was a member of Retribution. That's what I had assumed. Because this person with a black band over their face and all black clothes comes out. And my eyesight is not 2020. I've not seen an eye doctor in a very long time. So I just see this man dressed in all black with like a little black band over his head. And I'm like, haha, Retribution coming back for whatever reason to attack Kevin. It's Alistair. Alistair picks Kevin out of the ring, essentially, and takes both his legs and pulls him crash first into the post several times. And this would have been a well-cut promo if it weren't for the fact that you got Kevin Owens being slammed crotch first into a post, while Shane is ignoring all of that, talk to Braun, and hold back Dabba. And then you cut to Kevin and Alistair, and you hear Shane yelling, you hear Braun yelling, but no one's paying attention. And it was very strange. Um, Kevin Owens is a Spencer's fan, and that's why Aleister's coming out to attack him. That's absolutely without a doubt. It was just the strangest thing in the world. I love Aleister, but I need more direction on this one. And then we go backstage. We've got Drew. Charlie comes up to him, asks him some questions. Drew's already very sweaty for some reason. I guess they don't have air conditioning in the Amway Center. Charlie basically is like, hey, are you like a fight with a broken jaw? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine, whatever, who cares? And then she's like, are you kind of upset about the way that you treated Kevin last week because you were kind of a jerk to him? He's like, normally this wouldn't be happening, normally I would be nicer to him, but and then says a bunch of stuff in a very Scottish accent that I did not understand, ultimately being like, hey, we're still friends, but like I need to like kind of fuck you up right now, I'm so sorry. It doesn't end with Drew. It doesn't. I love him to death, but it's getting more painful every week. And then we cut to pretty much exactly where Drew was standing. We go to commercial, we cut back right where Drew and Charlie were standing for that interview. We now have Retribution attacking Titus O'Neil and Humberto. Can we just bring Titus back for like one match? I just want Titus back for like a match, like a real match. One of those matches that like the normal wrestlers fight. I think that would be fun. I think we would all enjoy that. And then I wouldn't feel as strange about the fact that he's literally only in Raw Underground now. And so we then have Keith Lee versus Drew McIntyre. Drew immediately attempts to Claymore. It doesn't work. Keith gets Drew in a headlock. Drew reverses it, gets Keith in a headlock. Keith gets a tight little waist lock on Drew. It doesn't last very long. Keith then sends Drew over the top rope in like the most awkward spear in the world. And Drew, using his poor little arms, just like flings out. And as somebody who, like, if I reach backwards just a little too much, my elbow locks up. I was like, or my shoulder locks up. I was like, I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. So Drew very nearly tears his biceps again. And Keith is just sitting in the ring, licking his lips. In a very pronounced fashion. Oh, God. It's like he's taking a page out of Randy Orton's book. I didn't like it. Drew finally manages to get back in the ring. Gets Keith back in the ring as well. And then the moment he gets Keith back in the ring, slides him back out. Drew chops at Keith. Keith does that very painful looking Grizzly Magnum or whatever he calls it, whatever incredibly macho name he has for the move. His Grizzly Magnum slap against the chest. Does that to Drew. And then Drew spikes Keith Lee into the announce desk. And Jerry Lawler screeched. Schoolgirl. Beautiful. And jarring. We get back in. Drew's chopping at Keith once more. Keith punches Drew in the abs and then clotheslines Drew. Drew sends a boot to the face of Keith, and Keith punches Drew in the goddamn jaw. And suddenly it looks like he doesn't want to be there anymore. Looks very regretful about everything that he has to do at this point. He decides, you know what, I've got to do this one way or the other. Keeps fighting. Drew is very nearly spirit bombed by Keith. And I think that was very much like Keith, like, being like, I gotta put this man out of his misery. He's never gonna be able to cut a promo again. But he almost spirit bombs Drew, and then Drew somehow manages to sort of kind of almost maybe head scissor Keith. Drew then manages to powerbomb Keith Lee. And then does a neck breaker to Keith. And I didn't think for a second, and maybe that's just me, for being silly. I didn't think for a second that Randy was coming back tonight. I thought that Randy was just gonna, like, make a goofy-ass video that was like, I'm still alive, and I'm still gonna, like, kick your ass, Drew. Because I thought that maybe Drew and Keith would be able to finish a match together. Crazy concept. Maybe I was. Maybe it was a bit overzealous of me. But I made a note that said neckbreaker to Keith, and because it isn't Randy, it isn't an RKO. That was my first mistake. So Keith gets Drew in the corner. Drew sends a nice big old elbow to Keith's face, and then Keith spirit bombs the absolute soul out of Drew McIntyre. He clotheslines him. And even though Drew's jaw is very, very much hanging on by, like, a thread of muscle, he claymores Keith. As Keith is laying down, camera zooms in on Drew, who's still holding his jaw, as I do when I wake up after gritting my teeth for 8 hours in the night. And my brain didn't connect any of the dots going into this. So when a steel chair collided with Drew's back, I was like, damn, Keith Lee moves goddamn fast if he was able to get Claymored, grab a chair, get back in the ring, and smack Drew in the spine. But it wasn't Keith. In fact, it was Randall Keith Orton. It all comes full circle. Smacking poor Mr. McIntyre in the back with a steel chair. And then, as Keith is still laying, completely out of sorts, on the canvas, he pushes the steel chair into Drew's jaw. Yes, is damaging. And the whole time I'm sitting there and I'm like, Keith, get up, save your friend, save your friend. That way, Drew's still a face, you're still a face, and we're all united in a front against Randy Orton, my love still. No, Keith's knocked out. Drew finally is freed from his, the vice grip that the chair has on his jaw, I guess, and Keith slowly gets up, and I was like, yay! And then Randall did, like, a little twirl in the corner, and I was like, aw. And then Randy just punts Keith. I thought that we'd have much more of a grand entrance for Randy, or re-entrance, I guess. Punts Keith Lee in the face. Keith Lee not seen again afterwards. And then Randy gets a microphone, and that's usually where, like, everything falls apart. Randy has a microphone, screams about it's been 20 years, it's been 20 years, he deserves a title, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, sure. Then he walks to the ambulance that has been there all night now, for really no apparent reason. He walks towards this ambulance, which I just kind of assumed was a symbol for the ambulance match, this Sunday. And talks about how, like, you know, he thought, like, oh, well, Big Show and Ric Flair and Christian and Edge were all in the same situation where, like, apparently he's like, I was fading in and out of consciousness the whole ride to the hospital. I was like, I mean, I haven't been Claymore kicked like 3 or 4 times before. Okay, sure. And And at first I thought this was like a really good opportunity for like Randy Orton face turn and maybe Drew McIntyre heel turn, because like he's almost sympathizing with the people that he's punted. No, no. He just said that that made him realize why he deserves to be a championship holder. And judging by Randy Orton's recent track record at pay-per-views, I wouldn't be shocked if he won. Spoiler alert, though, for the the prediction show on Friday, I will be rooting for. I will be choosing. It's a hill I've decided to die on. Might be a stupid hill. Never was a smart one, so. We then have Asuka backstage. She's having a good ass time. Billy comes out and kind of just says like, "Oh, you think you're so special because you got this title?" Asuka's like, pretty much. And then Peyton comes out, and Asuka's like, "Are you guys even like friends anymore?" And they're like, "We might be broken up, but we're still." And I was like, in the WWE, I haven't seen her in a while. I don't know what that's like. But Asuka just says, I'm ready for Peyton no matter what. And I was like, all right, sure. I'm sure you are. I know how this goes. All right. Now, we have Zelina versus Mickey. Frankly, in comparison to last week, Mickey couldn't have done better. However, not much. We start with Zelina shoving a boot into Mickey's throat in the corner. Mickey wrenches Zelina and flings her across the ring. Zelina gets a headlock on Mickey. Mickey throws Zelina over her shoulders. And then Zelina, in a fantastic show of core strength, and leg strength, gets an octopus submission hold on Mickey. Mickey tries to break out of it by slamming Zelina into the post. She successfully does so. Then Zelina slams Mickey into the canvas by pulling her hair. She attempts to sub Mickey's arms against the ropes. She's counted out because you can't. She attempts a tornado DDT. Mickey stops her, sends her arms to Zelina's forehead. Mickey then throws Zelina to the ground and jumps off the top turnbuckle and knees her in the face and almost kind of looks like she steps on her arm as she lands, which Zelina then slings Mickey into the ropes, does a really lovely little backstabber to her, and wins the match, and thus gains her opportunity to fight Asuka at Clash of Champions for the title. Which, yeah. Kind of thought it would be Mickey winning. Kind of excited to see Zelina doing her own thing and not working for Angel Andrade, who kind of seem to need, like, they need to figure their own stuff out right now. But this all feels so out of left field, and the fact that they broke up the Iconics in order to give Peyton a singles push, I guess was sort of exemplified tonight, but also not in any lot of sense. I'm giving it time. I'm not going to be impatient, but at the same time, we then have Bianca. I don't know what this promo was for. It was purely a Bianca promo, and it sort of felt like the type of promo that they do when someone's coming to Raw. It was really just a promo of her kind of showing that she can do anything the guys in the gym do, but better than them. I loved this promo. I thought it was really awesome. I just didn't. And maybe if they were doing that for like all of the sort of underutilized like SmackDown women's stars, feel a little better. But that was a promo that happened. Then we had Tozawa working for the 24/7 title by getting a referee the ocean with him and making a plan to wait for R-Truth to come to the ocean, hide in the water, and then attack him. R-Truth finally shows up with little Jimmy, goes into the water, and then he sees a shark. He decides to leave his 24/7 title behind in the water, runs away, and when we get back to him, he's searching with a snorkel, find his title, and he finds the title, and then finds Tozawa's, I think, Marquise do Taekwondo. I think they're called a gi. But he finds whatever Tozawa normally wears torn up into shreds in the ocean. And Truth jokingly says, Tozawa got devoured. But also I need to know if Tozawa got eaten by a shark. That's kind of what they just implied. No one got Truth's title, except for Truth. So, is Tozawa now playing Pinocchio in a shark's belly? And what happened to the ring? Got a lot of questions. And then we go to Heartbreak Central. Alright. We have Chip Skylark versus Chip Skylark Jr., aka Cedric versus Apollo. MVP starts off by taking the microphone, got a big announcement. Just kind of talking shit about. Cedric takes the microphone and then says some very nasty things, including the fact that he never cared about Apollo's children, which I don't even like kids, and that kind of still cut pretty. Apollo and Ricochet come out. Apollo's like, kind of rude, but okay, cool. Ricochet's just standing in the back, like, pissed off. And our match gets underway. We get a waistlock on Cedric and then a drop kick. MVP pulls Cedric away and lines him up just perfectly for a basement drop kick from Apollo. Then Cedric gets a strong headlock on Apollo's neck, sends a drop kick into his back, and has him in a half Nelson on the ground. Ricochet is just, after MVP says some mean things that, like, you know, Ricochet, or one of the announcers, probably Jerry, said something along the lines of, like, oh, well, you know, Ricochet just stands on the sidelines all silent, at least MVP is rooting for Cedric. I don't know. And just to prove them wrong, Ricochet is being so sweet on the sidelines, just kind of encouraging Apollo to do better and to work out of the submission hold. Apollo sends a couple of elbows to Cedric's head, and Cedric does a nasty little Michinoku driver into Apollo. Then Apollo says, alright. Kicks Cedric in the back of the neck, and a frog crossbody to Cedric. And then Samoan drops him. Cedric gets out of the ring. Apollo moonsaults off the apron. Hopefully hit him. Misses. Cedric gets back into the ring. Dives back out onto Apollo. Into the barricade. Now, after Cedric walks away from Apollo, he comes face to face with Ricochet, who's like, hey, remember you were my friend. We were pals. In case you forgot, we were best friends. And they're arguing for a little bit. Cedric gets back in the ring, but he's now distracted because how could he have hurt? Like that. But he gets back in the ring, and this has stolen his attention. Apollo rolls him up. He wins. Cedric looks like a fool until the Hurt Business come out. Because at this point, I think they're pulling like triple shifts. Because they came in the beginning, they've come in now, and they have to come in again at the end. So, to be fair, as much as I can't stand Hurt Business, they're earning their keep. Probably more than anyone else. But the Hurt Business come out, and all of the fellas of the Hurt Business get their, like, pound of flesh on Apollo and Ricochet. Bobby, who's got a match with Apollo, comes Sunday. Bull Nelson's him, throws him onto the ground. I'm looking forward to the day where it's not just Apollo and Bobby. But yeah, I mean, if Hurt Business isn't, if the Hurt LLC is not pulling like a little bit of extra cash now, since they're getting like 3 promos a night and doing 2 matches a night, someone's got to call Stephanie. They're not getting compensated. And then, God help us, it's 10 p.m. and Raw Underground has started. Again, I'm sticking to what I normally do. I'll give a quick rundown of what happened at Raw Underground. I'm not giving a single goddamn full detail. Basically, we had Dolph versus Arturo Ruas. And then Eric, who's still desperately in need of a partner, versus Riddick Moss. And, of course, Dabba-Kato. Also, we had, I don't even remember. Oh, yeah. For some reason, so last week we had Michael Cole, Byron, and whoever else announcing Raw Underground. This week we had, instead of Shane interviewing the wrestlers, we had Brianna Brandy interviewing the wrestlers for Shane, because Shane was scared of every man in the room that night. I don't know what they put in his cocaine. I don't know what it was mixed with, but something causing him to be a little on edge. Because he was scared of literally. Which was fair, because Braun did look like he wanted to strangle Shane. And frankly, when you're accustomed to a work schedule that does not include Shane McMahon, I can only imagine how much added stress it must bring to you after that schedule where there is a Shane. And after that, we move on to like weirdest promo. If you have any idea what happened here, please tell me. Because, Lord, I do not know. I do not know. So Seth, as he said earlier, had some very important business to attend to. Seth comes out and he's got an envelope. And I just need to, like, prepare myself to get through all this because either we're rehashing a 15-year-old storyline, I think, at this point. I think it's around 15. Somewhere between 15. Well, no, it's probably 15 because Dominic's not that old. So Seth comes out and he's got a little envelope. And at first I jokingly was like, it's a pink slip for Buddy. I almost wish it was at this point. So Seth says he has some... Dominic was 8 when the Eddie Guerrero thing was happening. That's really sad. That breaks my heart. Poor Dominic. My shy little fella. Dominic, like, as old as I am. I guess Seth has decided that he's going to re-investigate. He's like a detective in Law and Order. He found a 15-year-old cold case, and he's like, I'm going back into it, boys. I don't think that any of this checks out. He decides that he wants to look back into the Mysterio paternity case, sort of. Maybe? More like the Mysterio lineage at this point. He says he's got some really interesting news, and he wants the Mysterios to come out and meet him for it. So, Ray, Dom, Aaliyah, and Angie all come out. This was all precursored by the fact that Seth has them pull up an image of the Mysterio clan, which it's very obvious, for whatever reason, Dominic is like hella tall in comparison to everyone else in his immediate family. So this paternity case, it looks like we're bringing back the Eddie Guerrero, Ray, who's the father thing with Dominic. But that would have been simple. That would have been easy. Instead, Seth says, I thought it was kind of weird how Aaliyah acted with Buddy last week. Which I said, you're right. And then Seth said, play the clip back. And I said, please don't, because it made me feel really uncomfortable because Aaliyah's 19 and she's like coming over to Buddy, like gently petting his arm, like, are you okay? Honey, go to your father. Stay away from him. 30. I don't care for anything that's about to happen. So we play that clip back. And then it quickly becomes obvious that now Seth is talking about Aaliyah's parents. Which, once again, I just need to make a point. I feel kind of bad for Angie in this situation because Angie definitely gave birth to them. So, what are we getting at here, Seth? Seth essentially implies that I guess he implies that he doesn't think that Aaliyah's Ray's daughter? Yes. And then Ray says something kind of nasty to Aaliyah, like, hey, you're 19, you're naive, don't get involved in this. Aaliyah's like, I'm a grown-up, and walks off. And Angie, the backbone of this goddamn family, says, I should probably go take care of that. She walks off. And eventually it's just Dominic kind of staring back at him like, family. Dominic leaves. Seth says in almost a genuine voice, like, I didn't mean to drive a wedge between family. I didn't mean to, like, do all this to the Mysterio clan. And then he turns to the camera and is like, maybe some of you can relate to this. Never wanted this to happen. Like, and then he just sadly walks out up until he gets to the top of the ramp and starts smiling again, which is like, okay, that's Seth. But I pretty much felt like anytime that I've ever been, like, especially back in college, like, if I ever drank too much and blacked out at a party and I appeared in, like, a room in my head and I was like, oh, Christ, how did I get here? That's kind of how that felt. I felt like I just walked into a room and I was like, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what happened. I don't know any of the context to this. So I guess the theories now are, I don't think that we're bringing, if Seth hadn't made such a big, like, Ray, you aren't the father, kind of like Maury joke, I wouldn't think this is about paternity. But then he brought up Buddy, who's 31. It's a very easily searchable fact. Aaliyah, who's 19. So, unless Buddy was 12 when she was born, I'm hoping we haven't sunk to that level at Raw. Don't know where this is going. And I'm just hoping that they're like, actually, the father's whoever the hell is the father of Buddy. I don't. At this point, Mark was finally watching Raw, and he texted me, and we were both like, and then just like the turn to the camera was so weird. I wanted us to be done with the Rey Mysterio, Dominic Mysterio, Seth storyline. And now I just want, sir, just one. And then right after that, we move into Natty and Lana versus Shayna and I, which was at least an easily digestible match after what happened. Natty and Nia are in first. Natty quickly tags on Lana. Lana kicks Nia Jax in the neck, kind of almost gets an octopus submission hold on her, and then Nia Jax slings her off and headbutts her. Tags in Shayna. Shayna punches Natty off the apron, kicks Lana in the face. Mind you, this whole time Riot Squad is sitting on the sidelines, sort of commentating, sort of just existing. But Shayna kicks Lana in the face, gets the Kirifuda clutch on Lana. Lana immediately taps. I think this match lasted maybe 3 minutes, if that. And Shayna and Nia approach Riot Squad after the fact and kind of look like they're about to like attack them. Nia goes to lift Liv. Ruby punches Nia until she releases her. And then Nia realizes, well, I'm not going to be able to get my kicks by throwing Liv into the barricade or into God knows what. And instead, Samoan drops Lana, who she has pulled off the ground for her own perverse pleasure. Samoan drops her right into the announce table. Anyways, so we then have Drew backstage. He's feeling kind of sad, and he says, I'm looking for a match of my own. Basically, he's got like this ice pack on his jaw, and he throws it. And it kind of sounds like he's about to go to Raw Underground. I'm glad he didn't. I want him to learn a lesson, and I get a funny vibe that no matter what happens at the end of Clash, a funny vibe that we're not going to see Drew. Like a little nap time for him. And then we go to Aaliyah and the Mysterio fam backstage. Aaliyah is off. Ray is basically telling her, like, you can't believe anything Seth says. And she's like, oh, I get it. I'm a naive teenager. And then walks off. And I'm like, don't be better. And of course, I feel sort of bad for Aaliyah because I don't think that, like, unless I've been totally mistaken, and maybe she's also been training to wrestle for however goddamn long. I sort of feel bad when, like, they put people like this in that position where it's like, this isn't necessarily there to do this kind of stuff. And then they have to cut a promo. I don't think I could do that. Poor people are just like, well, I'm the daughter of Rey Mysterio. I've got to cut a promo, I guess. It's like, oh boy, okay. After that, we taken right to the announcers who have no table. We see Byron's lovely little pink socks. And then we go into Asuka versus Peyton Royce. And because it was about 10:33 at this point, I was like, oh, this is the main event. Weird. All right. Peyton gets Asuka into the corner. Asuka sends a boot to Peyton's face and then some lovely little knees to Peyton's chin. Hip attacks her into the post. And then I don't know if this was supposed to happen. I don't know if maybe I just misread Peyton's expression. It looked like Peyton was like sitting on the canvas laughing. And then Asuka just basement drop kicks her. Chef's kiss. Beautiful. Asuka goes to super kick her. Peyton catches her leg. Asuka manages to kick Peyton right in the side. Peyton hooks her arm around Asuka's and slams her butt first into the canvas. She avoids the Asuka lock and kicks Asuka in the face. She gets up to the top rope, but is then punched by Asuka. Asuka does a spinning kick to Peyton while she is still sitting on the rope. Asuka gets an Asuka lock on Peyton, but before Peyton can even so much as tap, Zelina Vega says, "I'm still here," and jumps in, breaks everything up, and is just attacking Asuka for absolutely no good reason. Well, for probably a good reason, but wants her victory now instead of on Sunday. This results in a DQ. Asuka kicks her in the stomach and goes for a spinning back fist, but Zelina avoids it, sliding out of the ring and scampering. And then it gets weirder. Aaliyah and Buddy are backstage. And Aaliyah is looking kind of sad, looking a little pouty. And Buddy comes up out of nowhere and says, "If I hurt you, if I upset you in any way, I'm so sorry." Which doesn't make anything any clearer whatsoever. So, maybe next week, maybe we'll find out. I'm hoping we will. I don't really know what the vibe is supposed to be. I assume it's not supposed to be that Buddy is her father. I don't know why Aaliyah gently petting Buddy's arm was supposed to imply that, like, they were in some way related. But what do I know? Then we go on to the main event. As we go on to the main event, Tom Phillips is announcing all of the events, or more so, that are supposed to be happening at Clash of Champions. And we don't mention a single time. I think re-mentioning Bobby Lashley versus Apollo Crews 41 times is always way more important than mentioning the fact that Zelina Vega finally is, like, in a pay-per-view again, or, you know, Bayley's all alone against Nikki. I'm sure that's more important. You know, Street Profits versus Angel Andrade. We've seen that before. Bobby versus Apollo. Haven't seen that before. Drew versus Randy. Haven't seen that before. No, it's fine. It didn't make me mad. It didn't make me so mad that, like, I had to, like, yell about it for, like, a little while. It didn't. I wasn't mad. And so many more, aka every other female fight. It's fine. Anyways, we got 10 minutes left of this fucking show. We got the Hurt Business versus Retribution. This was the moment when I realized that we aren't calling the members of Retribution by the names of the people that they were prior to Retribution. There is no Dio Madden in Retribution. There is no Dominic Dijakovic. I assume there is no Mia Yim or Mercedes Martinez or Shane Thorne. Instead, as far as the men are concerned, we have T-Bar, Mace, and my personal favorite, Slapjack. So Lashley is in first. He superplexes Shane. Or suplexes, not superplex. Suplexes Slapjack. Dio is... See, I'm gonna do this. I took most of my notes not knowing their Retribution names. Mace is then in against Lashley. Just kind of slugging him. Mace then sends Lashley into the turnbuckle. T-Bar, Dominic Dijakovic, sends Lashley over the ropes. Then there's a clothesline to T-Bar. Cedric gets in, he spears T-Bar in the corner. T-Bar, it feels so weird to say. So sorry. T-Bar then knees Cedric in the side, slugs him over the back, and then Slapjack is in. Sends some more knees to Cedric's side. T-Bar gets tagged back, throws Cedric around a little bit. Cedric does a cool handspring into a neuralizer on T-Bar. Gets Benjamin Shelton him. T-Bar is slugging him. They're exchanging blows. Mace gets punched in the whole goddamn face by Shelton. But T-Bar then kicks him in the jaw. And then Slapjack's in. Slapjack gets slung over Shelton's shoulders. Gets close. And Buster. At this point, I'm in virtual tears from laughing at this man's name. Shelton gets a full Nelson on Slapjack. T-Bar breaks it up. And because T-Bar broke it up, which, you know, happens in tag matches, usually someone comes in and breaks up the fight, even if they weren't tagged in. For some reason, T-Bar breaking it up was grounds for DQ. I guess. The DQ rules change every 15 minutes, it seems. But in spite of the DQ, the Retribution extras come in to fight, and Drew McIntyre finds the fight he was looking for and comes out with every other single man in Raw besides Randall and Keith. Keith because he was punted in the face, and Randall because, well, to put it lightly, Drew and all of his merry band of manly men come in and they attack the rest of Retribution, and, you know, that seems like a pretty important fight in the moment. Until Randy comes in and decides that he has other business to deal with, which is RKOing Drew in the midst of everything. And then as Retribution and every other man in Raw are fighting Retribution, Randall Orton just stares down at Drew while his song plays him out. And that's the show. So now I have to do the hard part. Which is picking best of the nights and stuff. Which means I have to now. I'm not gonna pretend that I can see anymore. What I'm gonna do instead. Put these old babies on. Oh, hello. I'm just gonna have a field day editing. Okay. All right. So, I guess I have to start with promo. I don't know. What did you guys all like for promo of the night? I'll do what Mark does. I will. Mark told me how to do this, so hopefully I don't screw it up. Okay, I've got to open this folder. And I click that. Okay. All right, we're good. We're good. So let me run us back really quickly and not in the same way that Mark normally would. Yes, I'll probably do exactly how he normally would. So our promos were, we had Retribution in the beginning, where we learned who everyone was, even though we already knew who everyone was. Uh, we then had the Mysterio family backstage. After that, we had more Retribution backstage. And I didn't get the chance to mention this. The reason why I feel like it's kind of strange that Retribution's so pissed off about WWE is that just let me just adjust myself here when I say this. Byron made a very clear point to say the members of Retribution are signed to WWE. That's a point Byron made. Signed to the. That's like me walking in like a Trump campaign office and being like, "Hey guys, sign me up. I want a job," and then being like, "Absolutely, let's go." Make any sense at all? Not even a little bit. It's fine. Anyways, we had Retribution backstage. We then had the KO show, which is a very long, mostly for the Captain Hot Topic and the Kevin Owens Shane McMahon reunion. Also the fact that Kevin Owens slapped Dabakeda, and also for the fact that Mark isn't here. Tell me what he liked the most. So I have to make my own opinions tonight, which is horrifying. So then we have Drew backstage, talking to Charlie, Retribution attacking Titus O'Neil and Humberto. We then have Randy Orton doing his promo, Asuka backstage talking to Peyton. We have Bianca doing her kind of cinematic promo. Tozawa in the water for the 24/7 title, which I think would probably be Mark's favorite because and I'm so sorry that he's not here to do his entire 24/7 title championship, but he also did not leave me the script for everything I'm supposed to say for that. You know, I'm not going to screw it up. I'm sorry, guys. I did really enjoy Shayna and Nia deciding to absolutely obliterate Lana because they couldn't get their jollies off by destroying Liv. I did really enjoy that. After Tozawa, we did have the Seth promo. And I don't want to say that I want to choose this. But I kind of want to choose this. Because I know a lot of people on Twitter especially are like kind of PO'd about them kind of recycling the paternity storyline. So small in this damn camera. Normally I'm like right up there, but I know a lot of people are kind of mad about them like reusing that, but I kind of enjoyed it. I kind of like being brought back into the mix, especially because I don't know what's happening anymore. And the thing with Seth was so weird, like when he turned, that was very strange. I don't know. I didn't like that, but like I liked it. We then did have the Nia and Shayna just trying to figure out how they could exact the most vengeance on the person that they were fighting or were bound to fight. Promo. We then had Drew backstage feeling kind of sad about himself, and Aaliyah getting all pissy with Ray. And then Aaliyah and Buddy, which I will not choose for the life of me because I'm still uncomfortable with it. And so because Mark isn't here, we make a choice. And because I feel like he would probably be annoyed about this. And I love stirring the chaos pot. We are going to choose, unless anyone has any other opinions, I'm going to choose Seth Rollins paternity. I don't know how to spell any of this out. Or so I don't know how Mark usually titles all these things. So so sorry. I don't know what in God's name I am doing, but we're choosing the Seth Rollins paternity promo. No one can stop me. Seth Rollins walking away from Buddy was not fun for me. It hurt me on the inside. That broke me as a human being. So now I have to choose Fighter of the Night, and I don't know how I'm going to do this either. Oh, God. Okay, so I guess let's go back to the top. First fight of the night was Seth and Buddy versus Andrade and Angel versus Dominic and Humberto. And I guess I would have to probably choose Angel Garza. With a close second to Andrade, mostly because Dominic did absolutely fuck all, and when he was in, he didn't look good. Humberto looked alright, but it's not even his fault that I wouldn't choose him. I think it's more of the fault of the fact that, like, anytime he was in, there was also 15 other things happening in, like, the sides. So it was a little difficult to focus on. Obviously, Seth did quite literally nothing. And Buddy did some stuff. Most he did was crawling back into the... No. 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 You know, I'm going against myself already. I'm going against myself. I'm choosing Andrade. That was very dry. I've been talking. True. Humberto and Dominic had their little crisscrossy off the top ropes, which was really cool. I'll give them that much. If this were synchronized swimming, I would have given it to them. But I think, I don't know. And the worst part too is that after this, I then have to make the tweet saying who I pick. Either. So difficult. I'm like, I'm floundering. No. I'm going into it. I'm going in. I'm choosing. I'm choosing Angel Garza for this match. It doesn't matter. I'm not choosing him for the end. I'm choosing Angel Garza. I'm going back on myself for a second time. Call that a 360. So then we have Keith Lee versus Drew McIntyre for this. Oh, man, this was a hard one. I have to say Drew. I'm not choosing Drew because I feel obligated. I would choose Drew mostly because I think one thing that I know Mark and I both don't like when people are fighting Keith Lee is that a lot of people will resort to just kind of like getting on his back and headlocking him. But the fact that Drew was able to slam Keith into the announce table and avoid a spirit bomb while turning it into sort of kind of almost looked like head scissors in the way that he did it. And he powerbombed Keith. It's obvious Drew's much smaller than Keith, but I like that the fights that we've seen so far with Drew and bigger people, especially with Keith as of like the last two nights, have been skill based and not just like haha, I'm a sneaky little fella and I'm gonna just jump on your back. I really like that. I respect it a lot. Um, if Keith went all the way on Drew, I feel like tonight would have been a very different night. If I could choose an inanimate object, the steel chair probably would be better of the night tonight. Oh boy, did he do enough. Also, we got to see Claymore. I haven't seen Claymore in weeks. We then had Zelina versus Mickey. I don't even. It's Zelina. It's Zelina. Zelina wins this one. Mostly for the octopus sub. I love a good talking. I love a good octopus submission hold, and Zelina just looked so good, especially for one of the first times we've seen fighting in a little while now. If Mark were be like, well, actually, she is fought most recently at this time, and I'd be like, thank you. But instead, I'm just gonna base this off of my own estimates. I know that she has not fought in a minute, so guys, I miss Mark so much. But I would choose Zelina here. It breaks me, but I have not been enjoying Mickey's fighting. I wish that they were. Especially after last week, I really wish that they had given her something resembling like a chance, or just something that like looked realistically good. But even tonight, although her moves were a lot more impressive than they have been, it's just one of those nights where it's like, well, at the end of the day, I really don't see Asuka losing her title to either Mickey or Zelina. So why don't you just let me and at least repay her for the fact that you, one, used a match of hers for a Seth Rollins promo, and two, my God, last week was she earned this much, guys. She earned this much. I guess we're gonna count Tozawa and the 24/7 title as a match. I don't know. I don't know what Mark normally does for this. I guess I'm gonna choose Truth because Tozawa got eaten by a shark apparently. Then we had Cedric versus Apollo. I mean, my favorite of the night was Ricochet. But I really, really liked Apollo. I thought I was gonna choose Cedric for this, but between the drop kick and the crossbody frog splash, really liked Apollo a lot more. Or not even a lot more. I liked Apollo more, but I really thought Cedric looked awesome. And the Michinoku driver was so nice to see. It always looks so good when he does it. And tonight was no different. I think, to be fair, I think as far as when I get into fight of the night, I think that this did pull some weight as far as fight of the night because of the weakness that Cedric did show. Cruz is obviously focused because he's confident in the fact that he's got Ricochet and he trusts Ricochet. Cedric's still trying to prove something. So I definitely think that Cedric, this showed more of his character. And it showed more of Cruz's character too. Part of it that we've already seen, but still. It feels so small in this room. Painful. There you go. Oh, God. So then we had Natty and Lana versus Shayna and Nia. I don't know how Mark normally chooses someone for like these kinds of fights. The 5-second, like there was 2 hits, I think. Let's see. You know what? It's Shayna. It's Shayna. Nia's a close second, but it's Shayna. Love a good Kirifu to clutch. And because in theory I would have counted the Yeah, I definitely agree with Shayna. I think because I kind of more so count the Nia Samoan drop with Lana after the match, I count that more toward the promo. I have to say that Shayna was in pure Shayna form. And I love a good goddamn submission. She is so long she takes. I love that in a lady wrestler. Like being scared of them. Then we have Asuka versus Peyton. I think I'm going with Asuka. I feel like it was really close. I really liked Peyton in this. I think that she looked pretty good. Asuka had some better hits. That's about it. And on top of that, I think just I don't like saying this, just the fact that like it looked like Peyton was laughing in the middle of the match, which at the end of the day, I'm sure that these people are all like stuff. The fact that she was laughing almost kind of like threw me out of it for a second. I was like, huh. Glad we're having a good time. I just think the fact that Asuka always looks like 100% like zeroed in was preferable. I don't know. I'm not going to explain my decisions. Sort of. But I think that Asuka looked really good. I think Asuka always looks really good. But this did make me more excited to see Peyton as her own person, and I am glad that we are seeing not only that, but like we're getting Peyton as her own person, plus Billy's still kind of supporting her at this point, which I was kind of worried that we're gonna have like a feud where it's like, oh, Peyton's trying to get the title, and Billy's like, no, it's my title, like yanks her off of someone or something, whatever. I'm just like ladies being supporting their friends when they do stuff. I think that's nice. Amazing. Women can be friends. Concept? I've never heard of it. And then after that we had the Hurt LLC versus Retribution. I don't know. I don't goddamn know with this one. I kind of just want to give it to Slapjack. Mostly because I like Slapjack's name. It feels weird to be like... It feels weird to be like... Oh, T-Bar, who I know is Dominic Dijakovic. It feels weird to be like, T-Bar did the best tonight. Bar. Fuck it. T-Bar. It's T-Bar. Okay. T-Bar. I'm voting for T-Bar here. Slapjack's a close second, mostly because of his name. But I'm voting for T-Bar, and I'm voting for T-Bar for an actual reason, and that is because he seemed... I'm gonna call him. I'm gonna call T-Bar Dominic because I can't call him T-Bar. I know him as Dijak, and that's about it. But Dijakovic did plenty to Slapjack's name just throws me every fucking time. Like, I can look back at my notes, I'm still just like, Slapjack. I just like that, Dijakovic is such a big guy, physically. I think that he's a really good matchup for Bobby Lashley. And in a weird way, I'm kind of happy that this is what's happening. Cedric didn't look that great. Shelton didn't look fantastic. Lashley did look pretty awesome. But I think between Mace or Dio, who did a little bit of defensive work, kind of threw Lashley into the buckle. Exchanged blows with Lashley for a little while. Outside of that, I didn't really see much from him. Slapjack, was Slapjack. And then I feel like T-Bar, so mad that Mark's not here to have to fucking call them by their stupid ass names. T-Bar, I think did the most defensively and offensively, between actually attacking Cedric and also helping his team out, which I think is important when you're in a tag match. The fact that I guess he did get the DQ. I just thought he did the most. And now I have to choose a winner. Yeah. Normally, like, I can run this back in my head when Mark does it. I can run my head back and be like, okay, I like this guy most. I think my winner is going to be... Drew McIntyre. Sure. That's who I'm choosing. I'm choosing Drew. And I'm choosing Drew because... I don't justify this. I'm choosing Drew because he looked amazing tonight. He did what Drew always does, which is acts amazingly. He plays the character in. I'm choosing the man on the ground. He brought his character into the match, and on top of that, he showed strength that we don't normally see in a match where it's a bigger guy versus a not so... I don't want to say Drew's not big, but, like, Keith's obviously much more massive versus Drew, who's mostly just height and muscle. Keith has on top of that the mass. And to see Drew being able to throw Keith and kind of get some air with him, I liked that a lot. Yes, he did get pummeled by Randall at the end of the day. But I really liked him. I really liked how he looked. I really liked that. Even though I don't really know where his character's going right now, I liked that we still got the same Drew McIntyre that we always get. And not in a boring way either. So I'm in charge of the computer. Unless anyone has anything else to say here. McIntyre. I haven't typed on a real keyboard in so long. And we transition. All right. And finally. Mark's gonna come back to this and he's gonna be like, oh my god, what did you do? So finally we are at Fight of the Night. We had, first and foremost, Seth and Buddy versus Andrade and Angel versus Dominic and Humberto. Objectively, I could say that this could be a fight of the night because we got some more character development with Seth and Buddy, but we also, after being force-fed Dominic Mysterio, got 0.5% of a move from Dominic. That's about it. This match basically felt like they were like, hey, you should be excited, but we're still going to give you the same result that you should have expected. So, that's not it. After that, we had Keith versus Drew. I really like this fight. Of course, I really I liked the moves. I liked a lot of the character acting. I liked that we got more of a story, I guess. It's up there in my top fights. Thank you. For being the moderator. Jean. I'm gonna call you by your screen name, even though I know you're real. um, but I liked this fight a lot. I really did. I thought that it was fun. I thought that it was classic Drew. I want to say that this is my fight, but it might not be. It might not be, because it was. Then we had Zelina versus Nikki. I'm not even gonna pretend that this is the fight of the night for me. So sorry. Sucks. I want Zelina to look good, or I like that Zelina look good, but I want Mickey to also look good. I think there's room for both of them to look impressive in a fight. I don't think there's anything that is holding any of them, either of them, back from looking impressive. But I didn't like it. I didn't like this fight at all. Breaks my heart. I want a night where it's promo, fighter, and fight. That's all. But it will not be. Obviously, from the outset, that was pretty clear. I think. Then we had Cedric versus Apollo. I really like this match. And I liked that we got this progression in Cedric's character as just like kind of going deeper and deeper into being an ass. And on top of that, from a writer's point of view, I really like that Cedric kind of showed more of his character. And on top of that, Apollo showed more of his character as well. It was awesome fighting, as we almost always get from Apollo and Cedric, but also the story got incorporated really well, and I really liked that. And on top of that, we didn't get too much useful for the person in question. I mean, MVP sort of like manhandled Cedric at one point, but it was much to Cedric's detriment, so. And then after that, we got Natty and Lana versus Shayna and Nia. I'm not going to. Asuka versus Peyton Royce was a good fight. I, again, would love to see a ladies fight that was good and lasted. And Hurt Business versus Retribution. It was good. There were other ways that we could have brought out Retribution. I feel so let down, not only by the names because of Slapjack, but just I didn't like this. Fighting was good, but the ending was awkward, kind of corny. I know where this is going. I know this is going towards Survivor Series. But also, like, my God, we've spent so long waiting for Retribution to show their faces. You had this long to plan a match. And it was still not that good. When you've got Cedric, Shelton, Bobby, talented wrestlers. Yeah, Dijakovic, Dio Madden, and I guess Shane. Talented wrestlers. And the most you could give me was a 10-minute fight that ended up being interrupted by every semi-face Raw wrestler. And then the entire attention was taken away by Randall RKOing. What was the point? Anyways, voice just did whatever it did. I am going ahead to say, until further notice, until Retribution uses their contract to, I don't know, get a decent enough match that lasts more than 5 seconds. My fight of the night is... Oh, I'm in caps lock. Happens far too often. Apollo versus Cedric. Transition to make that official. There we go. Baby. So, I'm going to run it back because I don't have Mark to tell to run it back. Promo of the night. Seth Rollins, paternity test, maybe, sort of, kind of. I don't know what this test was. I don't know what we're supposed to be proving, but my God, was it a promo. It was, oh boy, was it a promo. Fighter of the night is Drew McIntyre because I can't help myself. And fight of the night was Apollo versus Cedric. Really goddamn love this fucking match. You know what? If Raw's gonna break my heart every week, I'm happy that they're doing it like this. So, Mark, do you want to run it back for us? Play us out? Yeah, Elizabeth, I'll do that. I'm gonna play us out. So, thank you for joining me. So, fair warning, come Wednesday, I promise you, it will be back to normal. Mark will be back. I'll probably be significantly less awake, because it's Monday and I haven't had the soul sucked out of me yet. But Mark will be back Wednesday. And in addition, this week, we do have our prediction show. Because our prediction show is falling on Friday, which is our last Friday of the month, we will be doing our shout out show, our promo show. I don't know what we decided to call it. But we will be doing our shout out promo show on the last episode of the month, which means instead of it being on the last Friday, it'll be on the last next Wednesday. Not this coming. So if you liked this podcast and you are watching on Twitch right now, please subscribe or follow. I don't know how this works. I'm not really on Twitch that often. The one that's free, I think, is follow. Please follow. We like talking to people. And normally there's another guy with me. And he makes it twice as good. And if you missed part of this podcast and you would like to catch up or watch an old podcast or pretty much any podcast pertaining to the last, I don't know, 5 months of wrestling, we post all of our old podcasts pretty much the next day on our YouTube channel, the Pinfall Podcast. The icon is still not changed. It two men wrestling. It is not the one that you will see on this Twitch. But it is the Pinfall Podcast. You will very clearly see the same layout in all of these shows. Please, my dear good friend has linked it in the chat. I don't know if Mark normally calls you by. I'm also going to link in the say instead of but Eldon has linked it in the chat. So please check that out. Subscribe if you'd like to. You can see me back when I had more hair than this. And then, in addition to that, if you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at the Pinfall Cast. Remove the pod, just the cast. At the Pinfall Cast. We tweet whenever we're going live. I live tweet some of the wrestling stuff. Sometimes Mark and I don't realize that we're both tweeting about wrestling at the same time. And then you get 2 tweets from both of us about the same thing that just happened. It's very fun. And then if you think I'm super fun, after this, to say, you can follow me at Eliza Elaine And you can follow Mark at the Mark Cameron. And this is around the time where Mark would put on his sunglasses and say, follow the other Twitch stream that he does called, oh god, Eldon, if you're still with me, please help me here. What is the Twitch stream for the Pokemons thing? I believe it is, Mark has a fun little thing that he does, which combines the magic of wrestling with the magic of Pokemon, called the UPF, the Universal Pokemon Federation. And it has a Twitch channel. Eldon is about to link it in the chat. Because although I also work on it because I'm one of the right. I'm just that talented. I multitask. Mark shouts it out at the end of quite literally every one of our videos. And I check out as a joke, quite literally, every single time. Unfortunately, it's not just a joke, apparently, in my head, because I've completely blocked it out. Eldon has linked it. There's a YouTube channel for it as well. Please check that out. Mark works really hard on it. Eldon works really hard on it. A lot of our friends work really hard on it, and it's just as fun. And some of our viewers can agree that I've heard them, or I've heard Mark talk about them agree. So, sooner or later, there will be a championship battle between Mark and his sister. So, when that's scheduled, if you're following at the Mark Cameron, MARC, not Mark with a K. If you're following at the Mark Cameron, you will see when it's happening, because at this point. Anyways, this is why Mark doesn't let me ever close out the show. So thank you for tuning in. Please follow us. And if you are following us, or if you did tune in, or if you are watching this at any point in your life, thank you. Really appreciate it. We will be back Wednesday to talk about NXT. And I will be joined once again with my darling co-host, Marcus. So, please tune in. Thank you for tuning in if you did. And thank you. I don't know how he closes. Thank you so much. See you guys soon.